Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and it is a bright, sunny Saturday here in Dallas, Texas. It's March 20th, 2021, and we have somewhat of an abbreviated Saturday NBA slate. Sort of odd that we've had these big double-digit slates all week, and then we get to Saturday, and it's a one-game single showdown in the afternoon with Atlanta and the Lakers. And then tonight, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, we have a 4-game main slate. So interesting. Maybe they wanted to take it lighter because of March Madness with the NCAA and such when they did their scheduling. So not bad. I'll certainly be flipping back and forth to both college and pro. But excited to break things down with you today. I'm with you today and tomorrow for the NBA, and just really looking to have a huge weekend here. I know it gets a little hectic during the NCAA tournament, especially if you're a big fan of college basketball. But our goal here is to stay on top of this NBA, night and day like we have been. Follow all the news. Don't let all the crazy distractions get out there. And what I have found in the past is you get a little bit more action and more entries, and to be honest, more fish jumping into the NBA DFS world, because there's a lot of people that are involved with basketball watching the NCAA tournament. So, hey, we'll take whatever we can get. We're looking for every tiny edge, and I think this definitely gives us one of them. So, outstanding. Last night was interesting. It was not the greatest night for my lineup. Had a couple of real dogs in there, but the Joker did come through for me. And I know my man Andrew had some really sharp stuff on our clipboard for Draftkings. We definitely had some members that got it done, so that was cool. But today we're going to try to hit both. Last weekend we were able to get out the brooms and sweep some slates. And today for our members, it's just the one game showdown slate. And then this evening, we're going to do the 4-game main slate. So no after hours like normal because of the smaller slate that's going to be played. So that's what we'll be doing there. And if you're new to Coach Talk and you haven't jumped aboard with us as a member, we'd love to have you. We have several opportunities for you. We have a 3-day pass for $10. You can check us out, see what you think. And then we have several different other options for you. Just go to our website, dfscoachtalk.com, and you will see that there. A couple of sponsors I want to mention before we jump in. We have some awesome promo codes for them. Of course, betus.com.pa is our head sponsor, and they are use the promo code there, Coach Talk, all one word, no space, and you'll get a fantastic deal there. If you deposit $149, you get a free membership all the way through until June here at Coach Talk. So can't miss that one. Again, that's the promo code Coach Talk. Also, a couple other of our sponsors, a quick mention here. We're going to be announcing some of these on our social media. We're at DFS Coach Talk on Twitter. We also we're same thing on Facebook. So Super Draft, who I'm really enjoying. I'm pretty new to it. I really was mainly just the player in regular Draftkings Fanduel and Yahoo for DFS Sports, but enjoying the whole multiplier thing at Super Draft. Definitely a lot of fun there. And then something else that I recently started, I think is an absolute blast, and that's Monkey Knife Fight. Again, a different approach to it. It's a blast, and give it a try. We have promo codes for both. You can see those on our website. All right. Thanks for letting me get that out of the way all here at the beginning. Last thing, if you're watching this on YouTube, we're at the beginning. I'm going to go through all 5 games right now. We always even do the early slate game. We don't miss a single game here at Coach Talk. But if you're watching this on YouTube, it's extremely important for us. It's the only ask of the whole show. and that is give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and click the alert so you know when our podcast posts. So that would be really, really great. Really appreciate it, and look forward to having you do that on all of our podcasts. We've got 7 Day a Week in Front of the Wall podcast with the NBA. We have a weekly PGA and just all kinds of other activity coming up here. Okay, first game. It is 3:30 Eastern. It is the Atlanta Hawks at the LA Lakers. It is Atlanta as an underdog, of course, in LA, but the line is only 4.5. Atlanta has been hot since they fired their coach. They have gone 5-0, so they're playing some good ball, hence the lower 4.5 point spread there. And the over-under is 224. And not that that matters because we're not really comparing it to other games. This is our showdown game. As far as back-to-backs, Lakers are on the first night of a back-to-back. This is an island game for the Hawks. All right, let's take a look real quickly here at a couple of our main statistics or stats here that we follow when we're building our lineups and we want to share with you. Again, there's a lot of research night before, morning of, regarding all the different processes we go through to put together lineups for you. But, the main thing to know is that you need to follow the news throughout the day as well. We get this out. I don't do it the night before because I want to have the updated lines, updated news, but we do it early enough that, there is going to be some COVID news, some protocol stuff, you name it. And, follow throughout the day in Discord. If you become a member, we're on there 24/7 updating. And you can also check us out on Twitter at DFS CoachTalk. We'll post things up there as well. All right, this game's interesting. The pace is 22 and 18 respectively with Atlanta and the Lakers. We know Atlanta's defense average a little bit below at 18. Lakers maintain their hold on the best defensive team in the league. That's been a while now. And on the weekends, I like to pull out a statistic that is I think, very informative and sometimes surprising, but generally pretty darn accurate because it's a decent sample size that they base it on. And that's defensive real plus minus. And I've been utilizing that on the weekends. I think it gives our listeners a little bit different twist at it. And if you forgot what that is, it's players' estimated on-court impact on team defensive performance measured in points allowed per 100 defensive possessions. So it does give you a good feel for individuals, how they're fitting into their team defense and the impact that they're having. And the reason I like to pull that every day is it does give you some really good perspective on who to fade and where to attack. And once again, it's not always obvious. I mean, we know who the better defenders are, who we can attack, etc. But the stats don't lie, and that changes with players on new teams, players that decided they're on a contract year or whatever it is, they're going to play some solid defense. And then you have some regression from guys that sign the big contracts, that all of a sudden just don't have that edge defensively. I mean, let's face it, whether it's intentional or not. I mean, sometimes subconsciously, when you're not scraping for your contract and your dollars, there's a tendency to relax a bit. So want to bring those up. In this game, I pulled the top 10% and bottom 10% because I don't want to, we don't want to be on here an hour for a 6-game schedule. So, or 5-game, I should say. The top 10% for Atlanta, Clint Capella and John Collins. I was surprised in Collins. Those two made the list. And everybody I list on DRPM, it's guys that are playing. I'm not going to list guys that are out. So it's Capella and Collins on the good side. For the Lakers, it's Kuzma and LeBron. So Kuzma definitely a surprise there. On the negative side for Atlanta, it is Trae Young, who's one of the worst on the ball defenders in the league, and Rondo, believe it or not, who used to be fairly nasty defensively. So I thought that was extremely interesting. As far as injuries, Mr. Knight, the backup big for Atlanta, is questionable. That could rotate a little that backup time. And the interesting thing is Marc Gasol has been ruled in already. So big plus there for the Lakers getting another big body back. As far as the Hawks that are 21-20 now, they have gotten from 4 games under at 16-20 with their 5-game winning streak with their new coach to above 500. So this, that's very interesting. Should make for a good game against the Lakers. Their probable starting lineup is Young, Herter, Snell, Collins, and Capella. And I'll tell you, Snell's not much of a DFS player, but if you watch him on the court for Atlanta, that dude can defend, and he's done it for years, but he seems invigorated. He's getting after people and causing all kinds of trouble. Atlanta still has a lot of that bench out. Dunn, Hunter, and Reddish specifically. All of those guys should be really good contributors when they get back. The Lakers are 28-13, probable lineup as normal. Schroeder, Pope, James. However, Markieff Morris, not Marcus, Markieff and Marc Gasol, the two Marks are playing the bigs now tonight for the Lakers. That's where they've had some changes throughout. This game's interesting. The question is, how many people put Trae as their captain? How many put LeBron as their captain? That becomes sort of the question mark here, of how that's going to fly. I'll tell you what, I think this is a situation where I haven't decided on my captain, so I'm not going to force one yet, but I can tell you that the base guys that I think I really want to roster here are, of course, Trae Young. I really am interested in LeBron, so big shocker on those two. But it's the guys that you fill in with here that I think are interesting. Do you still play Kuzma if he's coming off the bench? Is Morris worth a value play? I'm not as crazy about Morris. I think Schroeder is a very good play. He's got a great, definite potential to make my lineup. Clint Capella, I'm not sure with he and Gasol if both of them, after their run 6-7 minutes in, they very well could, get played off the court. I mean, I can see this game going smaller. Morris playing center, Collins playing center on the two sides. So that's going to be my real strategy in this game is I'm going to fade Capella and Gasol, the two starting centers, and build my showdown lineup about the guys, with the guys that I mentioned, and, hopefully be able to afford putting that group in there on both the single game FanDuel and DraftKings. So that is it for that first 3:30 p.m. Eastern game. Let's dive right into this main slate. It is a fun one. We have just one superstar, and he is one of the biggest, and that's Giannis on this slate. And then after that, it's wide open, really. I mean, you've got your good guys with the Clippers, etc., but there's no Jokic, there's no Doncic, there's no Harden. All those guys are not playing on the 4-gamer tonight. So, I'll tell you right off the bat before I jump into these, Giannis is a lot more than anybody else on both sites, like a couple 1,600 and I think 11 or 1,200. So there's a big jump down in price, and Milwaukee's playing the Spurs. So I made the decision going into this that I'm going to try to build a lineup without Giannis. It will allow me to definitely have a medium roster build and not have to dumpster dive at the end of my roster. So I really like how this shapes up and those parameters that I put together in building this. I think I can come up with a very steady roster. Now, I'm not going to have a bunch of guys that can get 65 or 75, but I'm not going to have any guys on the straggling end that are going to get 10 to 15. So there's a lot to be said when you can, put 35 to 40 on every guy's ticket across your lineup. You're going to be in pretty darn good shape. So that is the overall plan going in. All right, the games, the earliest game is 8 p.m. Eastern for the main slate. So we get a full extra hour tonight, which is always great for player news and developing lineups and getting ready. Sacramento Kings, they are 17-24. Their lineup projected is Fox, Halliburton, Hield, Barnes, and Holmes. And then for Philly, it's they're 28-13, still no Embiid. It's Simmons, Korkmaz, Green, Harris, and Bradley. That is their probable lineups. BetUS.com.pa has Philadelphia as a 6.5-point favorite, and the over-under is the largest on the board at 235. We do have back-to-back situations here. Sacramento's on the second night they played last evening, and Philly plays tomorrow. So they're on the first night of their back-to-back. We have great pace in this game. Sacramento 8th, Philly 6th. So definitely gets you interested on extra possessions that make a difference and definitely feed into that total. The other plus that we always love, and that's why we have guys in exposure in almost every game against Sacramento, is not only are they fast paced, but they're dead last, 30th in defense. And that's been pretty steady now for a couple of weeks. But Philly is second. Now, again, I say second, but without Embiid, it feels more like 10-11. He's that impactful defensively. There's no question about it. So I do love this game. I think this is a key game right off the bat. I think that you need exposure here. I think you've got some really good possibilities, all over the board. Let's look at DRPM real quick as well. On the plus side for Sacramento is just Justin James. He's just plays a little bit off the bench, not that much. And that is it. As far as the Philly guys, in the top 10%, it's Embiid, but he's not playing. So that, again, there's a reason why their defensive rating slips so much when he's out. As far as the bottom 10%, and it's Hield for Sacramento, and Fox is in the bottom 0.5%. He's the 5th worst defender based on DRPM in the league. So where does that take us in this game? We know Bagley remains out for Sacramento with that broken hand. However, he did get a report yesterday that he may not need surgery after all, may be able to rehab it and come back. On the Philly side, we're missing 2 starters, Embiid, possible MVP, and Seth Curry is out. So that creates a little bit of a shuffle. As I mentioned, with that probable lineup, it does change things. All right, there's a million ways from Sunday that you can go here, and today's only Saturday, so you got a whole day to figure it out. Anyway, I'm not going to go De'Aaron Fox because I really respect Ben Simmons' defense, and Fox has gotten to be silly expensive. Walton keeps saying that Halliburton's on this minutes restriction, and he plays 30, 32, 33 minutes, which is interesting. Now, I'm not going to go there this time, though, because it is the second night of a back-to-back, and it's the third game in 4 days. And if he does grab one of those 25, 26-minute games, it definitely can smack you right in the nose. So not going to look there. The guys that I like, though, all 3 of these guys are potential plays for me, and their prices aren't too bad. Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, Rashawn Holmes. I think they're all playable. They all should see good minutes. The matchup makes sense for all 3 of them. And more than likely just 2 out of the 3. That is what I will be massaging throughout the day to make sure and figure out. All right, one of my favorite pay-ups on the slate, and I will have him in 100% of my lineups, and that's Ben Simmons. This just is the type of game with this pace, his length, with stocks and the points that he should score, the assists. I think Ben is a must in all your lineups. Not going to go with Korkmaz, more of just 3-point type shooter. Danny Green is not a bad play by any stretch. He can have some, blow up games, and he can have some bad games. The other guy, I'm not afraid to spend money in this game. To me, you need exposure here. And therefore, Tobias Harris, with Simmons, the 1-2 punch when Embiid's out is the real deal. I mean, you're going to get, the rest of the guys that are going to contribute are Korkmaz, Green, Tony Bradley, little Dwight Howard, little Shake Milton. But, losing Curry's shooting and then losing Embiid's everything, I think it just makes Simmons and Harris shine. I mean, this is against Sacramento. And if this game doesn't blow out, and Sacramento has been playing competitive basketball, I think I want exposure to Simmons and Harris, follow up with 2 of the guys on the Sacramento side between Hield, Barnes, and Holmes, and come out of this game as my key game of the night with 4 representatives. I think that's a great way to start your build on the main slate. Absolutely love this game. All right, second game, Golden State Warriors at 22-20 at the Memphis Grizzlies at 18-20. The probable lineup for Golden State, we have Wiggins, Oubre, Green, Looney, and we have to see more than likely Poole for the 5th starter. That's the way it's looking right now. A Grizz at 18-20, Ja Morant, Grayson Allen, Brooks, Slow-Mo Anderson, and Joval, it looks like, for Memphis. Right now, the BetUS line is, where are we at here? It is Memphis by 6, 222.5, which just happens to be the lowest total. But, again, they're compact. There's no small 208s or anything today, and no 240-somethings. The range is pretty fair from this game, 222.5, to the last game we talked about, Sacramento and Philly at 235. Interesting, too, this is a rematch of last night where these 2 teams played. And, from a pace standpoint, they're 2nd and 9th. But from a defensive standpoint, they're 6th and 7th. Now, we had some guys just go bonkers. Wiggins specifically had over 40 real points and just really did some damage in this game. The question is, does he plug right back in and follow up with that exact game, or does Memphis make some adjustments? I believe Memphis will make some adjustments. I'm not going to chase the 40-point real game from yesterday. I will say here in the DRPM category, both of these teams have some players in the top 10%, well represented. The aforementioned Wiggins is in there, and he's been in there consistently in that top 10%, which shocks me because he hadn't been the majority of his career. Looney also is checking in there. And then we've got Clark and Anderson for the Grizzlies. So 2 of their main rotation players in their first 6 are strong. The one guy that is right down there at the very bottom, right next to Fox actually, is Ja Morant. So as great as he is, and I'll tell you what, he almost had a dunk on Draymond Green. Look that up on social media. They show it from an angle where from the ground up, and it's just amazing. He actually missed the dunk, but he just about killed Draymond. It was unreal. But he has a low defender rating here. So it's a shame that Curry's not playing, because that would have been just one of those shootout scenarios back and forth. As far as any injuries go, Pascal, Curry, and Weissman remain out. Memphis looks like they are pretty much ready to go. Triple J should be back in maybe 2-3 weeks or less, but that they've got their full squad. First guy I'm putting in, I love Jordan Poole when Curry's out. I think Poole started it at point. I think he will again. I had him in all my lineups over Nico Mannion. A lot of people got smoked with Mannion and his 8.6 fantasy points last night. Luckily, I was on the right side of that with Poole, and I will remain on that side again tonight. Love Poole in this game. Again, I know it's contrarian. I know it's like, Coach, why are you fading Wiggins when 24 hours ago from, when the game time will tip, that he dropped 40 real points from Memphis? I just think they adjust. I think Dylan Brooks steps up. I think, I respect Memphis's coach enough that I think that they'll hold him down. And let's face it, I know Wiggins had some, periphery numbers last night with some rebounds and steals and assists and stuff. Not normal, though. He's generally a points-oriented guy. So he is certainly, going to be in a lot of lineups tonight, especially with the short slate, but not mine. So as far as anybody else from Golden State, Draymond is just too much stress to play. Another night last night where he was 0 for 6 from the field, 0 baskets, 0. And he'll get a lot of assists and rebounds and stuff, but how can you pay that kind of money for a guy that will possibly take a golden goose at points? It's ridiculous. I mean, he had 2 foul shots. That was it. After that, Oubre, he's just too expensive for his wild inconsistency. I don't think he's completely healthy either. Looney might not be a bad play if you need a super, value guy with Weissman being out. But I'm not going to go there. I don't think you have to go quite that deep. So really, it's going to be Poole, and I don't want to dig in for Lee or Bays or anybody like that. So that's going to be my exposure there. On the Memphis side, there's some guys here that I think are extremely interesting. I think Ja Morant could certainly get in an up and down game here and have another really solid game. So he's in play for me. I like Dylan Brooks a little bit as well. I know he's not the sexy pick ever. He's more of a defensive player, but he takes shots. I mean, I think he really thinks he's a cornerstone of their offense. So, you got to consider a guy that's going to play big minutes, that, isn't the best offensive player, but when he has that mentality, he is going to get shots up. And I think for that, at his low price, it's worth taking a quick gander at. The other guy is Kyle Anderson. I know, he's, again, not a real popular pick because he doesn't blow up a slate, but man, is he solid and consistent, and his price is right. So for cash games, I think he makes perfect sense here. And it's not stressful really to go there at all. The guy that I'm looking at for a while today was Joe Val. And, he's been inconsistent. He gets in foul trouble at times, and that bothers me. And then, really digging in and looking up some of the basketball reference stuff and looking who's on the floor and how that usage goes. It's Joe Val at times will create a lot of offensive putbacks, but they don't get him the ball in the post as much as I believe that they could. And Kevon Looney, like we said, is a top 10% DRPM. So probably not going to spend up on Joe Val in this card. Okay, 2 games left. So we had the 2 8 o'clock games. We have a 9 o'clock Eastern game. The San Antonio Spurs at 22-16, at the Milwaukee Bucks at 26-14. The probable lineup for San Antonio: Murray, White, DeRozan, Keldon Johnson, who is just, if you know how or when to play Keldon Johnson, more power to you. But the dude either gets 9 fantasy points or 50 fantasy points. He's just a doc specialist. No idea when to play him or not play him. And I'm not going to pretend that I do, because it's impossible. Spurs are tough enough. Keldon Johnson's definitely tough to figure out. Anyway, and Jakob Poeltl at center. For Milwaukee, it's Holiday, DiVincenzo, Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez as normal. The BetUS odds on this game is Milwaukee a big fat double-digit 10-point favorite, 228 over under. San Antonio is on the second night of a back-to-back. Milwaukee on an island game. That could be part of the reason that it's up to 10. As far as pace, San Antonio 16th, Milwaukee's 4th. So very good pace-up game for the Spurs. Defensively, though, they're both solid. The Spurs have scratched and clawed their way all the way into the top 10 now, which is amazing with the team that they put out there, or lack thereof, on a lot of nights. They're 10th. Milwaukee's down to 9th, which, they were up in the top 3 almost the entire season last year. But they're still 9th is very respectable. They both have a great representation in the top 10% defensive guys based on DRPM. Poeltl, Gay, and Mills are all on that lineup for the Spurs. And Lopez, Giannis, and DiVincenzo are all on the Milwaukee side. So some strong D here. The only two guys in the bottom 10%, Walker for the Spurs, Forbes for Milwaukee. The only big news in this game is LaMarcus Aldridge remains out. And after that, we just got to figure, is this game very playable? I already said that I was fading Giannis, which I'm sure he'll get a really good amount of ownership, being the only super pay up star price guy on the card. DeJounte Murray against Drew Holiday D, now that he's back in the grind, is a little bit scary to me. Not a big Derek White guy. DeMar DeRozan gets some solid Middleton defense, but I think DeMar is definitely an option here. He is listed maybe from questionable to probable. I've seen different reports on him. So we'll see if he plays on this second night of a back-to-back. He had missed about 5 or 6 days with the passing of his dad. He was out for a bit. So whether they sit him on the second night, for conditioning reasons, we'll see. But if he plays, I like him. If he sits, then you get yourself back in that damn quandary. Is Keldon Johnson worth playing? Do I shift to Patty Mills, real cheap off the bench? That brings guys back into play like Lonnie Walker. So, again, you guys hear me on this podcast every day. I am not a Spurs DFS trust person at all. I don't think anybody should be, because the second you put some Spurs in, the one day I admit it now because it's just hilarious, but I actually stacked 3 Spurs about a month ago. And it's stuck in my head because not one made value. They were just terrible. And so I've always felt that way, but Pop's really been in a zone doing that a lot this year. And how he has that Spurs team at 22-16, mind-boggling. So you talk about buying into a system and a really good coach, shocking to me. But yeah, I'm just not ecstatic about any guys from this team on the Spurs side. And for Milwaukee, in fading Giannis, it certainly is my medium to upper medium guy that I think is very in play is Chris Middleton. I don't play him that often because he's sort of that tweener on pricing, but because that's my build strategy today, is keep that sort of in the middle, get a little bit better guys than you normally do in that mid-range, and Middleton falls, just right dead in the middle of that strategy. So he is going to be high on my list tonight. And after that, this game just isn't palatable to me. I think it could be a grind out game. So probably just take Middleton as a one-off and move on to the 4th game. Okay, final game on the slate. Charlotte Hornets, LA Clippers. Charlotte's 20-20. Clippers are 26-16. Interesting. So you've got a probable lineup for Charlotte of Ball, Rozier, Hayward, Washington, and Biyombo with Zeller out. And Clippers, Jackson, George, Leonard, Morris, and Ibaka, but Ibaka is questionable, so it could be Zubats if it's not Ibaka. Right now, the BetUS line, Clippers -9.5. It's a 232.5 total, so the second highest on the board. From a pace standpoint, Charlotte 12, Clippers down to 25. So they are not going to be pushing the ball. Defensively, though, we have Charlotte 22, and they've been getting scorched at times. And the Clippers just middle of the pack. They've been even below middle of the pack a lot of this year at 14th. DRPM top 10%. We have Graham, which absolutely blew my socks off. I can't believe Devontae Graham is in the top 10% DRPM. And Biyombo, who's a defensive specialist, will get some extra run today with Zeller being out. From the Clippers side, two guys you would expect for sure, Batum and George, but Kawhi's not on that list in the top 10%. He's just outside of it. So that was sort of a stunner. But defensively, we know they have individual terrific defenders, and I do think that mark will move up from middle of the pack. As far as poor defensive players, bottom 10%, Charlotte has Mr. LaMelo Ball, who's not getting it done as a rookie on the defensive side. Not surprising. Malik Monk, who's basically, I think, defensive theory is please score quick so I can get back down there and score even quicker. Not a strong defender off the bench. And Mr. Morris for the Clippers, not a good defender. Again, we've got the twin brothers with the Lakers Morris pushing that top 10% and the Clippers Morris in the bottom 10%. So whatever gene it was that didn't match up with both identical twins definitely created a difference in their defensive prowess. Out for Charlotte is Zeller. What that does is definitely give a big bump to Biyombo in the starting lineup rather than coming off the bench. But he's not a lock and load value play at all, in my opinion. He certainly could be if you need the value, but you don't need as much value in this lineup today because you don't have to do a lot of buying up. But a lot of that usage at center will go to Washington as well. So he'll get minutes moving over from the forward. So it actually benefits him, as much as it does Biyombo. On the Clippers side, we know Pat Bev is still out and Ibaka questionable, which is news we need. I think Zubats is proven he can put up some DFS numbers with Ibaka out of there. If they're both in, again, that timeshare doesn't help me whatsoever. Reggie Jackson is still cheap, getting good minutes. And, the question is Paul George or Kawhi. I like Kawhi much better in this game. He underperformed in the last game. Paul George is probably going to get Terry Rozier defense, which he can be very irritating. Kawhi's going to, more than likely get Gordon Hayward. I think he can score pretty much at will against him. So Kawhi's my secondary guy that I'm paying up for. I would say, two of my most expensive guys could easily be Leonard and either Simmons or Tobias Harris as my pay-up guys. And that is it, my friends. That should give you a good pool of players in whatever site you're playing on. I think that, there's some potential for some mid-range guys, to break the slate. I think you're going to see lower overall money line scores, not just because it's a 4-gamer, but because we have better defense and some slower teams in this entire deal. So I think it's going to be a good slate with some great potential. This early slate as well with the one single game should be pretty awesome also. So let's make some money on this for sure. We're having a lot of fun at Coach Talk. We're into the NCAA bracket competition that we're having. We throw a lot of those out there all the time. And we'd love to have you give us a try. If you have any questions, if you're thinking of signing up and have any questions, you can send those directly to our team at DFS Coach Talk, or you can send it to me directly at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi, or to Andrew at Language Olympic. So that is it. Please, on the way out here, click that thumbs up. Definitely subscribe. That really helps us on YouTube. And click the alert button. If you're listening to us audio-wise, fantastic opportunity to just take like 10 seconds, give us 5 stars, give us a nice positive comment. All of those things make a difference in trying to beat these algorithms and move up the charts. I mean, they're dominated by companies like Disney and ESPN and all of this. And, those of us that are small fries are looking to move up so we can get our little bit more exposure, get some more people involved. So really appreciate everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Definitely looking to crush it today in basketball. We got our PGA guys going, and even playing a little MLB preseason with some of our guys. Really looking forward for you guys getting to know Josh Davis, JP, and some of our other players out there, Brett and Tyler, some of our team at Coach Talk. Everybody's grinding and getting prepared for MLB season as well. So enjoy it. Enjoy the NCAA March Madness. It's sports mania this weekend. You can't not enjoy that if you're a sports fan. So appreciate you. I'll be back tomorrow solo again for the NBA podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Joe Sarvadi. We'll look to catch you again tomorrow when we crush it in DFS.